Good evening and welcome to RFL. I'm Richard French. A historic and somber day as President Trump gets impeached for the second time, a first in American history.
The President of the United States instigated an attempted coup in this country. People died. Everybody should be outraged, whether you're a Democrat or Republican. If this is not an impeachable offense, I don't know what the hell is.
Tonight, we will bring you into our conversation on yet another turning point in this country, and we're going to make you a big part of our program. Phone lines open. Our question, straightforward. Do you support Trump's impeachment and removal? The numbers, they're on your screen. If you're calling us from the East Coast, please dial 888-766-2428, spells out to 38's RNN chat. If you're calling us from west of the Mississippi, for viewers in Texas and California, 855-735-2289. Again, that spells out to 855-RFL-CATX. And please, so we can get in as many callers from as many places, try to stick to the number from your region here. And also remember, turn down the volume on your TV sets when we take those calls. Now, if you'd rather write to us, email the program at rfl@rnntv.com. We can also read your messages via Twitter. Our handle is LarryEP13. So if you can't get through on the phone lines and want to make your voice heard there another way. Now, in a few minutes, we'll be speaking with a Democratic congressman who voted for impeachment today. We're going to be getting his reaction as well, and also where Congress goes next from here. But first, I want to bring in Andrew Whitman, senior political correspondent. He's going to tell us both not only what happened today, but also where we may go next.
There's a lot to get through, Rich. The vote to impeach President Donald John Trump for a second time happened about 90 minutes ago. And unlike his impeachment in December 2019, this one was bipartisan. 232 House members voting to impeach. That includes 10 Republicans, more than have voted in any other presidential impeachment in terms of votes from within his own party ever. There's only one article to this impeachment, incitement of insurrection. The language in it includes references to the rally and Capitol riot of January 6th, Trump's false election claims, his call to the Georgia Secretary of State to find 11,000 votes, and his interference with the peaceful transfer of power. Let's take you inside today's debate. First, those supporting impeachment. Speaker Nancy Pelosi spoke early on and set the framework for the arguments to impeach.
I ask you to search your souls and answer these questions. Is the president's war on democracy in keeping with the Constitution? Were his words an insurrectionary mob a high crime and misdemeanor? Do we not have the duty to our oath to do all we constitutionally can to protect our nation and our democracy from the appetites and ambitions of a man who has self-evidently demonstrated that he is a vital threat to liberty, to self-government, and to the rule of law?
Now, as we showed you with the vote, the GOP was not unified. Washington Republican Dan Newhouse explained why he voted to impeach.
These articles of impeachment are flawed, but I will not use process as an excuse. There is no excuse for President Trump's actions. The president took an oath to defend the Constitution against all enemies, foreign and domestic. Last week, there was a domestic threat at the door of the Capitol, and he did nothing to stop it. That is why, with a heavy heart and clear resolve, I will vote yes on these articles of impeachment.
We'll get into the Republican arguments against impeachment, but Illinois Democrat Mike Quigley provided an effective counter to most of the arguments heard today.
Now we hear talk of the president's notion of a peaceful transfer of power, which apparently means what? Minimal casualties? Now we hear talk of healing after the criminal acts are completed. Never as a criminal defense attorney did I say, Judge, yeah, my guy completed the armed robbery, but let's heal now. No, there was accountability. There was accountability then, there should be accountability now, and there should be impeachment now.
One other player in all this today, showing his growing irrelevance, the president issued a statement during the debate. It barely made a dent. In it, he basically urged no violence, no law breaking, no vandalism of any kind, 1 week too late.
And Andrew, let's show a live picture here right now. There you see Speaker Pelosi. She will, she spoke on the floor earlier today making the argument for impeachment. These are her first comments after the vote was done, and she'll be speaking at the lectern that, if we remember, during the riots was stolen. It has obviously been returned. Here now, Speaker Pelosi describing both the vote today and I'm sure where she believes the process should head from here.
Good evening, everyone. It is my honor to be here with members of the House leadership, Leader Hoyer, Whip Clyburn, Assistant Speaker Catherine Clark, also with our managers for the impeachment, our lead manager Jamie Raskin, Diana DeGette, David Cicilline, Joaquin Castro, Eric Swalwell, Madeline Dean, and Joe Neguse. I think Ted Lieu and Stacey Paskett are in here electronically one way or another, but we're very proud that they have accepted the responsibility, a responsibility we did not think 1 week ago we would have. Today, in a bipartisan way, the House demonstrated that no one is above the law, not even the President of the United States. That Donald Trump is a clear and present danger to our country, and that once again, we honored our oath of office to protect and defend the Constitution of the United States. So help us God. And now, I sadly, and with a heart broken over what this means to our country, of a president who would incite insurrection, will sign the engrossment of the article of impeachment.
Thank you. Speaker Pelosi, are you disappointed that Senator McConnell said that he will not hold a trial until the 19th?
And with the engrossment of the impeachment, it is thereby formalized. The impeachment now moves to the trial phase at the Senate. And Andrew, we already know this will not be speedy. Mitch McConnell has indicated he's left open. He may also vote to convict as president, but this will not be taking place tomorrow, certainly, or any time. In all likelihood, this will be happening with certainty in the Biden administration, the trial. We don't know the details of it, but it will be moving forward there, and it will be happening under a new president.
Yeah, the Senate's not going to convene again until January 19th. McConnell announcing today that he's not going to bring the Senate back early, so it could theoretically start while Trump is still president, but it probably won't end that way.
And we showed you some of the prime arguments made by Democrats. Republicans, and it should be mentioned, 10 voted for this, which doesn't sound like a lot, but historically it is the most bipartisan we've ever seen in an impeachment. But Republicans, the vast majority, obviously did not vote to impeach the president, and they made three basic arguments as to why not. To me, top of the list was these false equivalencies. They compared the riot to other things they claim are just as bad. They also painted the president as a victim. And they rewrote history completely as to what happened last Wednesday and how we got here. And Andrew, we have examples that stood out to us today from some of those speeches, all from the Republican side.
We do, Rich. Let's start with Trump as victim. That was the theme for Arizona's Andy Biggs, who many Democrats want expelled for his role in the riot. More on that later. Biggs also leaned on some surprisingly aggressive language, especially considering we're just a week removed from the violence at the Capitol.
It is with wariness and a certain unhealthy, morbid curiosity that I watched the beast attempt to devour President Donald J. Trump again. You don't merely seek victory, but you seek obliteration of your nemesis. The thirst for Trump's destruction will not be slaked, however, even if you're successful today and were the Senate to convict President Trump. Yours will be a Pyrrhic victory, for instead of stopping the Trump train, his movement will grow stronger, for you will have made him a martyr.
Next up, the false equivalency argument. We heard lots of versions of this today, but no one framed the false equivalency better than Pat Fallon, who represents the region just north and west of Dallas.
Last summer, the Antifa and BLM riots swept all over our country. Cities were burnt, businesses destroyed, and lives violently stolen. And it wasn't just for an afternoon like those horrible hours we had on January 6th, but rather they went on for weeks and in some cases even months.
See the riots this summer worse than what we saw at the Capitol last week. Finally, the rewriting of history, while also being critical of the president. Here's House Republican leader Kevin McCarthy.
The president bears responsibility for Wednesday's attack on Congress by mob rioters. He should have immediately denounced the mob when he saw what was unfolding. These facts require immediate action by President Trump. Accept his share of responsibility, quell the brewing unrest, and ensure President-elect Biden is able to successfully begin his term.
McCarthy, of course, spread his share of election lies, even voted to overturn the election after the riot. He later put to rest the claims that somehow Antifa was responsible for the riot, not Trump supporters. But that's also, Rich, like the Trump statement, too little, too late.
And Andrew, this idea that, first of all, more people were arrested by multiples of Black Lives Matter rallies than were arrested from what we saw on Wednesday on Capitol Hill. But the other thing is, BLM rallies did not work at the behest of the Democratic Party. They were not directed or even encouraged, let alone forgiven when they did commit, whether there was fires or whatever else that took place there. But the idea that McCarthy now is finding religion that we have to speak with a tempered voice. 2 days after the election, he claimed that Trump won and it was stolen from him and that Trump would be the next president. And he voted like the rest of the 100 some odd Republicans after the riots to still not certify the Electoral College. So please give me a break here. And that Donald Trump is the victim, like I kept hearing today, the cowardice attached to that was just unbelievable to me.
Yeah, and look, any of these comparisons between the riots or the protests this summer and what we saw at the Capitol, just completely unhinged. The Capitol being the seat of power for our legislature, and it's a government bill. I mean, on top of that, the differences in what people were fighting for, and that there was nobody leading those groups during the summer. There was no, Nancy Pelosi wasn't saying, hey, everybody get out on the streets and mess stuff up. Trump was.
Yeah. And then they also excused that Trump really had no role in this. We heard audio of people that were rioting saying, Trump sent us here. And then there was, I'm sorry to interrupt, there was reporting that when actual reporters would have on their phones, you know, the crowd would come by and say, what is the president saying? What is he tweeting? What does he want us to do? They clearly believed that they were directed. We'll find out with the investigations if it was their imagination or if it was just so. But we already know from the audio tape. Now, we got two additional questions, Andrew. Where do we go from here? What's the process? And where could this, in the different timing as well as also processes, how could this play out?
Yeah, we're going to get into that, as well as what you were talking about, those claims that perhaps some members of Congress were involved in all of this. The article of impeachment will be transmitted to the Senate. It's not clear if Democrats will do that quickly or delay it to let the Senate focus on other work, including Biden nominees. Then comes a trial. We don't know how long it will be, if witnesses will be called, or if evidence will be allowed. It takes 2/3 of the Senate to convict and remove Trump. If every Republican in the Senate takes part and votes, that would take 67 votes to convict and remove Trump. That means 16 Republicans would need to vote to remove Trump today. That number rises to 17 after the 2 new senators from Georgia are sworn in. But there's talk that some Republicans might skip the vote or abstain. If they do, that would lower the number needed to convict Trump, which means it could happen with as few as 6 or 7 yes votes from Republicans. If the Senate votes to convict and remove Trump, it would immediately consider another question, whether to ban Trump from ever holding public office again. That vote would only take a simple majority. Other possibilities remain, like a censure of Trump, an untried move to use the 14th Amendment to bar Trump from elective office without convicting him, and the possible expulsion of some Republicans from Congress. Now, today's impeachment debate did have a different feel than the one 13 months ago, in part because some Republicans laid blame on the president, as you heard, and also because of a glimmer of hope that impeachment might succeed and Trump might be removed, thanks in large part to this man, Mitch McConnell, the same guy who blocked any witnesses from being called last impeachment, may be singing a different tune this time. It started with a bombshell in the Times last night. McConnell is privately backing impeachment. Quote, McConnell has concluded that President Trump believes impeachable offenses committed and Democrats move to impeach him will make it easier to purge Mr. Trump from the party. And quote, McConnell has indicated he wants to see the specific article of impeachment that the House is set to approve and to hear the eventual arguments in the Senate. But he's made clear that he believes now is the moment to move on from Mr. Trump, whom he blames for causing Republicans to lose the Senate. That tempered by word today, as Rich mentioned, that he's not bringing the Senate back before January 19th, so any trial will have to happen when Trump is out of office. McConnell also said, as Rich mentioned, he's not sure if he's going to vote to remove Trump or not. The other source of hope for Democrats was the number 3 Republican in the House, Liz Cheney, daughter of the former vice president. She provided cover for other Republicans. She voted for impeachment, and she said much more will become clear in the coming days and weeks, but we know now that enough is enough. She went on to say never a greater betrayal than by this president, and I will vote to impeach. But it's the first line of her statement, much more will become clear in the coming days and weeks, that had us thinking and has us worried. What more is that to become clear? Could it have something to do with this?
They knew where to go, and I've been told since I said this, they saw people being allowed into the building through side doors. Who opened those side doors for these protesters, or I call them these mobsters, to come into the building?
Did the rioters have help getting inside and inside information about where to go and who to look for? Looks increasingly likely. Here's New Jersey Congresswoman and former Navy chopper pilot Mikey Sherrill.
Those members of Congress who had groups coming through the Capitol that I saw on January 5th, a reconnaissance for the next day, those members of Congress that incited this violent crowd, I'm going to see that they're held accountable, and if necessary, ensure that they don't serve in Congress.
Members of Congress doing a reconnaissance. Another Democratic member who would be an obvious target said she was terrified she'd be attacked because other members of Congress would tip rioters off to where she was.
I myself did not even feel safe going to that extraction point because there were QAnon and white supremacist sympathizers and frankly white supremacist members of Congress in that extraction point who I know and who I had felt would disclose my location.
Now, if you recall, Congresswoman Sherrill said 3 members led a recon tour for rioters the day before the riot. 3 members. Now listen to the man who organized the rally that preceded the riot. He also mentions 3 congressmen by name.
I was the person who came up with the January 6th idea with Congressman Gosar, Congressman Mo Brooks, and then Congressman Andy Biggs. We 4 schemed up of putting maximum pressure on Congress while they were voting.
These 3 members, Alexander says, worked with him to set up the rally. Did they also help rioters know where they were going once they stormed the Capitol? As Liz Cheney wrote, much more will become clear in the coming days and weeks. Rich?
And also, Andrew, there is apparently voluminous internal video as well that law enforcement and the FBI has from cameras within Congress, let alone people that recorded it themselves, that apparently paints a harrowing picture and maybe also illuminating the idea, and I'll talk about this with my guests in a second, that fellow members of Congress could be complicit in this? Oh my God.
Unbelievable. Unbelievable that they would even consider. I mean, that should be, if it's true, it's a violation of their oath. It's a violation of, I mean, it's just a violation in every possible way. It's unbelievable that they would do that.
It's words beyond treason. I mean, okay. Again, I'm going to be getting your phone calls in just a moment, but I want to bring in my guest first. He cast a vote today. Congressman Tony Cárdenas, he a Democrat from California, and he joins us now. Congressman, you said in a very powerful statement, you voted the way you did because you believe Donald Trump to be the most dangerous person in this country, that he is a threat, and he betrayed our nation. I'm curious, when the vote was finally tallied, did you look at the 10 Republicans who crossed the aisle as a significant break or a pathetic indictment that only 10 Republicans thought a siege and a coup on this country warranted impeachment?
I saw 2 things going on. I saw 10 Republicans finally say enough is enough. And I saw too many of my Republican colleagues look at the 71% of Republican voters out there who are still supportive of Donald Trump. And I saw that as an opportunity for them to consider their political career instead of considering what's the best thing that we need to do to keep our country going forward.
I've heard said that there were more Republican votes that wanted to impeach, but they weren't just fearful of political reprisals, potential primary challenges, maybe losing their job. They were literally fearful of their safety. Did you hear similar sentiments that more people would have joined with the votes to impeach today, but literally we're at a point in this country where people are afraid for their and their family's safety if they did so?
Well, I think that every member of Congress, the United States Senate, and the House of Representatives felt the chill of fearing for our safety in what is supposed to be one of the safest sacred places in our country. The House of Representatives, the United States Senate, we occupy our United States Capitol. I don't mean ours as in congressional members, I mean our United States Capitol as Americans. And it was breached and it was done by people who do not respect this country. They do not respect democracy. They do not respect the republic. And they certainly showed a lack of respect for the people that have been elected to represent us, including the Vice President of the United States, for them to actually create a scaffold and a noose on the Capitol grounds and to chant things about hanging Vice President Pence. That was chilling. That was something that truly showed that these people have no respect or no regard for decency.
Part of your statement said that those in Congress who were complicit and encouraged last week's terror attacks must be held accountable. They should resign immediately as they're clearly unfit to hold public office. I showed my audience, Congressman, what both Congressman Clyburn has said, what Congresswoman Mikey Sherrill has now alleged as well as also what Congresswoman Cortez said, that she was afraid to literally be in the room with some of the Republican colleagues, including a QAnon believer, because she was afraid that she would be outed to the mob that would literally put her head on a pike. My question to you is, do you believe that the enemy wasn't just those who stormed the gates, but you might have an enemy within? Do you think some of your colleagues could possibly have helped with reconnaissance of the Capitol prior to the riots?
It is unfortunate that we're going to have to investigate and find out exactly what happened leading into that day, and to make sure that if in fact there is proof that any of our colleagues aided and abetted, for example, giving tours to people knowing that they just might crash and attack our United States Capitol the next day, we need to hold those individuals accountable. But this is the United States of America. If we uncover those kinds of facts, we need to act on those facts. Just like fact, Donald Trump urged thousands of people to march over to our United States Capitol on January 6th, 2021, and to incite violence and to try to stop the electoral process. And what happened? They followed his urging. They actually acted on it. And that is why we have impeached Donald Trump for a second time in his presidency.
Congresswoman Cheney, one of the 10 Republicans who voted to impeach, gave her reasonings, as we mentioned earlier, but she also said much more will be coming clear in coming days and weeks, but what we now know is enough. What more might be coming out that we haven't seen? We understand that there is some horrific video and even imagery that has yet to be shared with the public, but many argue that if it was, it could help even further shape public opinion and even maybe lawmakers' votes as to not only how close this was to going from a tragedy to even that much worse, but also just the real horrors that day was, because I think for some, it's somehow been sanitized.
Well, my Republican colleague Cheney, and I applaud her for voting to impeach Donald Trump, because I believe that she's expressed publicly, and with her vote, she expressed that Donald Trump deserves to be impeached. He earned that responsibility, and we are holding him accountable as the House of Representatives. But at the same time, you can talk to any prosecutor, any person who investigates crimes, and they will tell you the vast majority of the time, the one thing that caused their conviction to be convicted of that crime was they opened up their mouth. They themselves gave themselves up inadvertently because they cannot help themselves. And too many of my colleagues cannot stop tweeting. They cannot stop making speeches. They cannot stop telling the public lies. And those are on record. And we're going to uncover that, because in any given corner of our country, there is always somebody with a cell phone who's recording by voice or recording by video, and that is going to be uncovered. And when we get that information and when we verify it, if it is in fact true and accurate, we are going to use that information to make sure that we hold every single person accountable for their contribution to the horrific crime that occurred on January 6th.
And again, maybe even some of your colleagues fit in that category. Finally, Congressman, right now there are more National Guardsmen on the Hill, more troops than there are in Afghanistan and Iraq, and more than there were after we were attacked on September 11th. This is the second huge terror incident that we're dealing with of this scope, but it's from within. How much of a crisis are we facing as a country, even, let's say we get past the inauguration, but how much of a crisis has been fomented over the last few years that it's going to take Herculean work on the next administration and you in Congress to try and get this country back together in some semblance of a United States?
One thing I can guarantee you, Richard, is under the presidency of Joe Biden, our federal government will be honest with itself, will be honest with the American people. And I will say this, we're going to find out once Donald Trump is no longer president in just a few days, we're going to find out through the testimony of people who work for the FBI, people who work for the Department of Justice, how much of that information has been suppressed by President Donald Trump and the people that he put in place. The truth is, we have a big problem in America, and we have way too many individuals who believe that domestic terrorism is going to be tolerated. And I will promise you, it is not going to be tolerated as soon as Donald Trump is no longer president.
Congressman, sad day in America, but I appreciate you spending some time with us tonight. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Richard. I'm proud to be an American, and trust me on this. We have a great country. Our democracy is intact. As you saw on January 6th, these attempts to interfere with the will of the voters will not happen. We will continue to prevail, and there are millions upon millions of good people who are going to do the right thing and make sure that we're better tomorrow than we were yesterday. Thank you so much, Richard.
Thank you. All right. So you've gotten the reaction from Congress today, and you heard from a congressman himself. When we come back, we'll hear from two more voices. The president has just spoken. We'll tell you what he said, but more importantly than his voice, we want to hear yours. Phone lines open right now. There is our question. What do you think? Do we need to impeach this president but remove him as well? Your reaction straight ahead.